Hi, today I'm making a video on how to change the rear brake pads on your Porsche 911 G-Body. So start off by making sure that the handbrake on the car is on. Get your trolley jack. I've got one of these, and for this one I don't need this extra pad which I normally use for engines jacking. Now what you'll see is here, just there, that square down there is the jacking point. So that's where the jack pad needs to go. So a little bit further, and it's about there. As you can see, the jack pad is where it's supposed to be there. Okay. Now one of the important things is, before you start to change your pads, unscrew the brake reservoir fluid cap, so that when you pull the pads apart, the caliper pistons apart, it doesn't over pressurize the system. Another thing I like to do is I like to start to crack off the lug nuts manually with one of these extension bars, after which I get my gun and I remove the nuts the rest of the way by using one of them. Before you begin though, I would suggest chocking the front wheel, so that when you jack the car there's no chance of it shifting forward, as you can see. Okay, so back soon. I now need to crack off some of these nuts. One thing I wanted to point out is that when you undo the wheel nuts, you must do them in a specific order. So for example, if you start here, you need to go opposite afterwards. Once you've loosened this one to that one there, then the opposite one is this one here, then this one here, finally that one there. So it's always, like for example, if you started here, you'd go here, here, here and here. So it's always the opposite one to the one where you start from. So what I've got here is my impact wrench. It's an electric one by Ryobi. To be honest with you, if I had to choose again, I would choose a better company. I don't think this has enough torque to provide the kind of torque needed for the kind of work I do on the car. So I think I would have gone for a better brand than this one. Maybe Makita or something like that. So yeah, I'm just going to get on and undo these nuts here. Now, so now that I've cracked them off a little bit, what I'm going to do is raise the car slightly using the jack, and then take the nuts out the rest of the way. Okay, so I've jacked the car up slightly. You can use axle stands, but if you're just lifting the car up a little bit to take off a wheel, as long as you don't get anything of yourself under the car, then a decent trolley jack should be enough for safety purposes. Depends on what you want to do, but generally speaking, this works for me. Right, so now I've got these nuts undone. Next thing I want to do is take off this wheel, and that reveals our caliper. So I'm just going to get this wheel over here, put it somewhere out of the way, like so. So there's our caliper. Now what you need to do is with the caliper, what you have is these two pins, one here and one here. What you need to do is get a drift, put it against here, and just tap with a hammer till this pin. Let me get a light on that. Hold on. Generally speaking, if you've got a magnetic torch and you can put it against the bit of the metal tube there, it'll stick to there and you can get a good light. So this pin here and this pin here, in other words these two pins, have to be drifted back in this direction, and eventually they come out the back here. You pull them out, both of them out, and then what that does is it frees up this spring arrangement. Once you have this free, you take the spring off, and that gives you access to the brake pads. So this is the drift I use. So I bought a set of these off Amazon. They're not that expensive for a set, but make sure you get decent ones, and you basically put that against there, and then you tap that with a hammer till it comes out, and the same goes for this bottom one as well. So these are the pins that you've removed from here, and as you can see they would go through there, then they would go through here and into the second one here, then out through there. That's how that works. Oops, that's the spring clip I was showing you earlier. That keeps everything in place. So this comes out once the pins are out. Then you should be able to, in theory, pull out these pads, but generally speaking they're going to be a bit difficult to get out. So what I do is I will get some mole grips and I will then pull these out. So using these mole grips, basically I've grabbed it from here and then here alternately and managed to wriggle this out. So that's what it looks like, and as you can see these definitely needed changing, and some pads have got a cutout in them. For example, the new pads I'm going to put in, they have a cutout for a sensor for the brake wear light in the cabin. These ones in particular don't, but that doesn't matter, because what happens is when your pads wear down to a certain point, the material of the pad is slightly different and it starts to make a grinding kind of noise as you brake. It's nothing to worry about, it's just the way the pad's designed to make a noise to let you know that there's something that needs to be done in terms of maintenance. So this morning when I drove the car, I heard that noise and I thought, okay, let me go and sort this out. So I've caught these kind of on the edge of where they, you don't want these to be in the car any longer. So let me get both of these out and then I'll show you the new pads that are going to go in. Now normally I use EBC blue stuff because I occasionally track the car, and therefore tracking and fast road use. Not that you can do much of that nowadays, but the difference in the pad thickness for these ones, and all new pads are pretty much the same. These are Pagids. These are T1119s, which are used in these calipers for the G-Body 911. They're pretty much the same throughout all the years, and they fit on both the front and the rear calipers. And you can see, compared to modern pads, they're absolutely tiny, but they get the job done. And here you can see the cutout that I mentioned earlier for the brake pad wear sensor. That would clip into this recess just in this area here. And if you look at the pads I've taken out, as you can see, they don't have any such cutout. But like I said, for me that doesn't matter, because I listen to the actual sound these make and I can hear them. Now what you'll find is there's no way you're going to get these in, because there's just not enough room here between the pistons and the disc, which is here. In order, this is too thick. The other ones will go in because there's nothing left on them, but this is not going to go in. So how do you remedy that? Well, I'll show you a little tool I bought which does the job. Okay, so this is another tool I bought from Amazon, really useful. Now, normal caliper rewind tools that you'll find in Halfords, Euro car parts, they're no good for this type of caliper. What you need is something which you can wind apart and wind in, but these two plates that you see, these two plates here, what happens is they go in here, and also in here. And as you unwind it, it pushes these pistons away from each other, which then enables you to get the new pads in. So give me a second and I'll fit this in place and show you how it's used. So here you can see how this has been fitted. As I told you, those two plates have been fitted between the disc and the piston, and all you do then is slowly unwind these, and as it unwinds, it pushes out those pistons. I'm going to need two hands for this, so I'll be back in a moment once I've undone these. Okay, so now that I've unwound the calipers in the piston, the pistons in the caliper far enough, what I can do is put the new pads in. But before I do that, on the back of the pads here, what I use is some ceramic lubricant. Some people use copper grease, but what I found with that is that it doesn't last as long and it's not as heat resistant as the ceramic stuff. So this is made by Techstar, called Ceratec, and I put this on the back of the pad, which makes it a lot easier to when you come to remove it at some point in the future. So you don't need a lot, just a little bit of it. If I can get it up, there you go. And generally speaking, what I do is kind of coat the back of this with this stuff. You don't need a lot, like I said, but just enough to give it a nice even smear all around the back. Now, one thing you must be sure of is do not, whatever you do, get any on this side of the pad. Very bad. You don't want to do that. Okay, so now this pad is ready to go into the caliper. I've already checked the clearance on both sides of the disc to make sure they do fit, and what you do is you simply take your pad, oh, wrong way around, don't do that, but you take your pad, and so this rough material needs to go on this side to facing the disc, so that slips in there, and you line it up so that when the pins go in, they go back in through here, through there, and then through the hole in the top of the pad. Okay, so the second brake pad's going in, and I remember this time that this surface must go against the disc, so that goes in like so. Once again, these holes here need to be lined with this hole here and this hole here, so that the pins can go back in. So before putting the pins in, don't forget to put this in the space which is designed to hold that in place. So that goes like so, and the pins must be put in after you have positioned this thing here. So now I've got the pins back in. What you need to make sure is this thing here is put in correctly, so that the bottom part of this and the top part of this has a kind of almost like a shape which the pin sits into rather nicely. If you get it wrong, the pin won't sit there like it should. So this thing, what it does is like a spring which makes sure that the pins stay located where they should be. So now what you need to do is get your drift or get a small hammer and tap these back in. So what I use is one of these. It's a ball peen hammer, and you can see that this bit here is rounded, and it's really good to just hit the pin and nothing else. A flat hammer would hit the whole caliper, which is not a good idea, but this thing enables the pin to be driven further in to where it should locate. So if I show you how that works, you'll see what I mean. So just want to adjust this light. Okay, so as you can see, it's this bit here, this here, and this here. And if I tap that in, now it may be better to use your drift. In fact, that's what I'm going to do to make sure the pins come out all the way from here and here. So let me try to do that. So that's it. The pins have been drifted back in where they should be. I generally have them coming out about that far there, which is okay. If you carry on, you can actually bring them out too far, which you don't want to do. So yeah, that where they are right now is good. As you can see, they've gone through the caliper bracket here, through the hole in the top of the pad, all the way across, and with this sill spring thing in the channel there, through this other hole in the brake pad and in the other side of the caliper bracket till they come out there, and that should be good enough. I don't really use wear sensors, to be honest. I've got mine, as you can see, it's up here. I don't bother using it. I don't see the point. Like I said, normally I track my car, but today, in lieu of being able to get hold of the normal EBC blue stuff pads which I use, I had to go and get some Pajids, which they're okay for road use, but I'll be changing them when I go for the next track session. But better than the pads I had, so at least my disc should be fine. A quick note on discs. So as you can see, this disc here, it's got a slight wear mark there, but actually these discs are relatively new, and in fact I can run my finger all the way up smoothly, and I think if I hadn't changed those pads, this could have got really bad, but hopefully this scoring will go away with the new pads in place. So these are new discs, and I want to make sure that I get a lot more use out of them. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. You see loads of things on the internet which they purport to tell you how to do a job with loads of music and all sorts of stuff. I don't really play about with any of that. I just want to show you how it's done practically, so that you can do it yourself. One last thing, don't forget, once you've changed your pads, to put the reservoir cap back on the brake fluid reservoir. Please don't forget to do that. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Take care.